Welcome to Heart to Heart. Our guest today is Father Stephen Huffstetter, Vicar General of the Congregation of the Priests of the Sacred Heart. He will share with us his perspectives on the congregation and experiences of living in Rome. It's good to see you back, Father Steve. I hope that you have enjoyed your stay in the U.S. with your family and with the members in the U.S. province. Father Steve, would you please tell us what did you do before you were elected Vicar General for the Congregation of the Priests of the Sacred Heart?
Before I went to Rome, I was the Provincial Superior of the United States province, but I only served for a little over a year and a half, and then I was elected to become a general counselor in Rome. The majority of my ministry was in South Dakota. I spent 22 years there, 13 years doing parish work, and 9 years at St. Joseph's Indian School as director chaplain.
Very good. So now as Vicar General, what are your responsibilities in the congregation, in the general administration?
The Vicar General is the vicar of the general. And so it depends a lot on how the Superior General envisions the role. Vicar General before me, Carlos Enrique Camado Martin, was asked to stay in Rome a lot more and really help organize the local level and be a liaison with the student, the collegio community, and take care of a lot more of the meetings and things. I was always one that visited a lot, and when Carlos Suarez became the Superior General, he asked me to continue doing the visitations of the different places that I was responsible for, and still take a role in helping to lead the meetings and set the agenda too, but he didn't want me necessarily in Rome all the time. As the Vicar General, I get copies of almost all the emails that Carlos gets, so I have a lot of reading to do in many languages. Some languages I can read, others I have to rely on Mr. Google Translator. And I have to admit that in the last 6 years, besides me improving my language skills, the translation services have gotten a lot better with the artificial intelligence and things. And so if I get the minutes from Indonesia, I cut and paste, but I can get a good sense of what's being said and decided. And then if I have questions, I can always ask the other counselors from those areas to clarify things for me. So one job is just to be aware of what's going on in the congregation at the general level. And another duty of the Vicar General is that if anything happens to the Superior General, it's up to the Vicar General to organize the next chapter and elect. And I saw that happen when Heiner Wilmer became the bishop. We had to go through the whole chapter. I always pray for the Superior General every day, but when I became vicar, I prayed doubly hard that what would happen to him and that he would be safe and well and continue his work.
Very good. In your position, you have traveled to various parts of the congregation. Could you please tell us what you have seen, what you have witnessed that are exciting or challenging?
Yeah, I've actually gotten to visit a wide swath of our entities. When I first was general counselor, I had Latin America as my responsibility, and I spent quite a bit of time in South America. This time, I have a few different responsibilities, and right now, I visit the U.S. and Canada, India, Great Britain, Ireland, Finland, the Netherlands, and Northern Italy. So it's pretty spread out and pretty wide, so I've gotten a perspective. And there's other things where I've gone to meetings. I was in South Africa for their last election assembly. I've gone to Portugal and Spain and Germany for certain visits, and we're going to Poland when we get back in a couple of weeks for a meeting with all the superiors in Europe. The congregation is quite diverse. We have some long-established entities. Some are declining in numbers, but still have a good spirit. We have some growing emergent entities, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. And I think one of the big challenges is that as our numbers switch from the Northern Hemisphere to the Southern Hemisphere, is finding the right kind of resources for those new emerging provinces, entities, districts. Not just financially, but making sure that they have a good sense of our constitutions and our founder and our spirituality. And so we want to put a good emphasis on having people trained, especially in our Dehonian spirituality. There are times when we invite people to come to Rome to study. We had a year-long program for formators. We had a year-long program for guys who are going to be treasurers, so they can understand not just the nuts and bolts of numbers, but some of the ethical practices that are important when you're trying to work with donors and care for their money and use resources wisely and well. So yeah, it's really all over the place. Some of our places have big institutions, some have tiny, small communities in very remote areas. But there's a unity in all that, and people are trying to do their best and spread the love of the Sacred Heart.
Right, and I see that younger or newly established entities are slowly sending out missionaries to other parts of the congregation. That's very exciting. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Father Steve, social justice is our DNA. What have other provinces and entities throughout the congregation are doing to address some pressing social justice issues in the world today?
Yeah. Everybody has sort of their own opinion about what's important, what priorities are. I went to a social justice meeting in Argentina that had a lot of the guys from Latin America. And one of their high priorities there was helping people with addictions. Mm-hmm. You know, that we don't often think of that here in the United States as a big social justice issue, but it affects people's family life, it affects their ability to earn a living. So, like, you know, Brazil has like this farm that people go for recovery, and some of it's self-help, but others is with trained therapists and counselors and things to help them to get back on their feet again. There's a lot of concern about migration and refugees throughout the congregation. I know that like Canada has sponsored a family, and they've tried to work at more humane policies for migrants. And the United States is interested in that as well. But in other countries, it's more like internal migration. So, you know, if you go to Ecuador, we have a big parish where most people are Ecuadorian, but they've come in from the small villages that do not have a good economy. They're looking for jobs. And the same thing in places like Cameroon, Congo, the big cities are growing with a lot of migration from the countryside. And oftentimes those people have a hard time adjusting and need support. In the Philippines, we have a program to help young girls who've been abused by their families and trying to help them heal and grow from that. In Poland, we have a training for people in business to think about ethical business practices, because Father Dehon worked very closely with Leo and Harmel to really try to make sure that the people who ran the factories and who were the capitalists could look at how they could use their power and their potential to help build up society in good ways and create good working conditions for people. So there's really a wide variety of stuff that's going on.
And we, in our daily ministry and daily living, we keep alive Father Dehon's vision and charism. On a personal level, Father Steve, what was it like for you to transition from the United States to Rome? What were the challenges that you faced when you moved to Rome, and what are the joys?
Well, I think for most Catholics, we're just curious about Rome. I mean, what is Rome? And I remember the first time that I came, and I saw St. Peter's, like, wow, And I think one of the joys for me is having a chance to explore Rome and do a little bit of time and discover more of the people and the culture and things. The big challenge for me was the language, because I didn't speak any Italian when I first got there. And I had about 6 weeks crash course, and then we started having meetings. The council was trying to draft our vision statement for the next 6 years, our programmatic letter and everything. And they'd be asking me, so what do you think about that? I don't know what we're saying. What does it mean? So it took me a while to become to the point where I could really understand and contribute. And that was a nice advance when I could really feel like I had a sense of what the issues were and talk about them. Another challenge was my first term was only 3 years long, because Heine became a bishop, and we had to have another chapter. And so what we started, then we had to have kind of a break and get used to a new council and a new superior general. And so there's been a hard time with continuity. And just when we got going, COVID hit. And so the meetings that we had scheduled, the conferences, the travels, the visits, they weren't able to do that. So we've had to adjust a lot on the fly. You know, COVID has made our world, you know, a lot more difficult in a lot of ways people have dealt with. And it's also, I think, increased the whole refugee crisis in different parts of the world, along with, you know, the wars, the environment, things that are, you know, driving people to leave their homeland.
Yes. How have your ministerial and cross-cultural experiences broadened your perspectives, or how have it changed? How have they changed your perspectives?
Our church is so diverse, you know, and even just there's a certain personality characteristics of countries too. You know, when I go to Argentina, everybody's so vibrant and they're kissing you on both cheeks and everything. Or you go to the Philippines and people want to touch your forehead and have your blessing. And you go to Finland and people are much more reserved and, you know, kind and everything, but just less talkative and less, you know, extroverted. You know, in Rome, you know, we got, you know, the big liturgies and things, and then you go to India and people are sitting on the floor barefoot. We had one of our seminarians from India, not a seminarian, a young priest. He came, the first day he came to chapel in Rome, he took his shoes off, you know, and just figured that's what you do when you go to church. So he had to learn to adjust and look at, I have to wear shoes. But yet, even though we sing different songs and speak in different language and wear different clothes, you know, we're all there to try to grow in our relationship with Christ. And even in Rome, you have all the different rites. You know, you have the Coptic rite, and you have, you know, just there's so many like national churches in Rome that keep their language and their culture. I went to mass in Assyrian.
You did?
One time. Yeah, it was interesting. No, Arabic, the language that Jesus was spoken.
Now, what's the best part of being an SCJ for you?
It's the fact that God loves us, and that's our emphasis. You know, speak of the heart and everything. And I always felt that, you know, I had a lot of blessings in my life I was grateful for. And I wanted to kind of give back or pay forward in some ways and serve people. And being an SCJ has allowed me to do that in a whole variety of ways. I've never really asked to be assigned anywhere. I've always been asked to go. And I was a little reluctant or hesitant, not sure it's going to work out. But I found that when you say yes and do it and go, there's just so many amazing things happen, so many blessings. You meet people that make a difference in your life. And just trying to be open to God like that makes all the difference.
Good. So thank you very much, Father Steve, for your time and for sharing with us your experiences of the congregation and also your experiences in Rome. So thank you very much. And I'm aware that you're flying back to Rome tomorrow, right? Tomorrow morning. And so I hope that best wishes to you in your ministry. And I hope to see you sometime in the very near future.
Yeah, well, I hope to come back in January because we have an election assembly. Yes. And we're all praying for new leadership that will continue a good tradition and be attentive to the needs of the province and the world.
Yes, and may God guide us along the way. Just a side question. Have you met the Pope in person?
In person?
Yes.
I've got to shake his hand and say a few words twice. When we had... the first time when we were elected, we had a papal audience, just about maybe 125 of us, and he was with us for about half an hour or so. And what I liked about that was he had a prepared text that his aide handed him, and he looked at it and he said, "You guys can read this later. I just want to tell you a few things personally." And he was good friends with one of our bishops, Virginia Bressanelli in Argentina.
Argentina,
and
yes.
so he knew the congregation and he talked to us. And it just was like, you know, listening to your uncle talk, you know. And then the second time it was after one of the Wednesday general audiences. But anyway, Pope Francis comes walking up to us. He's got this big grin on his face. And he goes up to Carlos and says, is this the new superior general or is this a future bishop? No, I don't want that. No.
Let him finish the term.
Yes.
So,
And there are many big papal events that you can go to throughout the year, but we would have, the Chrism Mass together, or you could go for Christmas or Easter or things that he's doing. And I've always been impressed by him. So I've seen him quite a few times, but actually meeting him was twice.
wonderful. So thank you once again.